Remember, as a very young boy, just beginning to love the things of the Spirit, we used to have one gentleman, we're a group of friends who loved Jesus with all our hearts. The gentleman was a sickler. One time he just fell ill, the crisis just broke out. I had the honor to be the only person who went with another of our senior teachers to go and see him at the hospital. Smiled at him, we joked, and I told him, I said, don't worry, you'll be fine, and we'll be praying, waiting for you to get fine. Not knowing that was the last time I was going to see him. And a few hours later, they told me he had gone. I couldn't believe it until I saw the poster with his face. I had to tap myself and say, you mean this guy is gone? Tragedies and unpleasant conditions are real, and the effects of tragedies and unpleasant conditions are also real. When you lose a loved one, the effect is real. When you lose your job, the effect is real. When you go through some turbulent time in your health, your marriage, your job, your church, your ministry, all of these things are real. The Bible does not teach us to pretend. Believing by faith is not the same as pretense. The Bible does not teach believers to pretend. The Bible teaches us to triumph over pain, triumph over situations, but it starts with recognizing the reality of those situations. Crying and weeping over painful and tragic situations is not unbelief. The Bible makes provision for even believers to cry. The Bible makes provision for believers to express their humanity decently in the midst and the presence of unfavorable situations. The Bible is full of great men, even patriarchs, who had to cry, had to weep. Some of them had to ask God painful questions. You talk of Abraham and Sarai, the nation of Israel in bondage, Gideon, Ruth. You even talk of Jesus himself, John 11:35. The Bible says Jesus wept. There is no man, no matter how spiritual, no matter how prosperous, no matter how educated, who is entirely immune from situations that are unpleasant. The faith life does not promise us unpleasant situations. It only promises us victory in the midst of, or victory in spite of. When someone dies, that death is real. When someone goes through pain, that pain is real. When someone loses their job and they no longer have salary, that is a real situation. Hear me again, God does not teach believers to pretend. Sometimes we get too hard and we get too harsh on people when their humanity finds expression, especially in the midst of painful situations. We have people who get disappointed, we have people who get pained, we have people who grieve, and sometimes in a bid to challenge people to still remain in faith, we swing to the other side of the pendulum and we try to strangle away the humanity of people and make them feel guilty for crying. We make them feel guilty for taking a minute to absorb whatever pain they are going through. As a man of God, you would think that all I've seen in my life are just miracles and signs and wonders and pleasant testimonies. I have cried myself. I have cried for others. We have lost people within the ministry. There are people who have come with testimonies that are not the best. There are still people till date who are trusting God, releasing their faith to be healed in several areas in spite of the many testimonies we already have. It takes a lot of honesty to admit this. Perhaps someone came to church or someone is connecting from across the globe, finding meaning. Where is God in the midst of this pain? How could God be there when my child died? How could God be there when my wife died, my husband died? How could God be there when I lost my job? If you do not understand a message like what I'm about to teach you, God will be so confusing. It will not make sense to trust him. Pain has a way of re-educating and reorienting your mind, bringing you to a point where you no longer believe God because it doesn't seem to make sense believing him. It looks like the lot of the unbeliever and the believer eventually becomes the same. Let me tell you the truth. When you find people crying, when you find people going through pain, don't be too quick to make them feel foolish. If you have nothing to say, let your hands do the speaking. Embrace them in love and allow those tears to sponsor the healing process.